Stacy Buddy, peace and harmony with you here today. We're going to be focusing in and diving deep into understanding a little bit more in depth the traits and behaviors, cognitions, emotions, and experience of an individual who presents with quiet borderline personality disorder. Someone who has a lot of black and white thinking. It's all or nothing. It's all good or all bad. It's hot or it's cold. It's right or it's wrong. This individual can be very hypersensitive to criticism. And so if you try to have a discussion, a dialogue, a conversation about naming, calling, or confronting the behaviors which can be typical of this, which include rage outbursts, impulsivity, a lot of judgment, a lot of blaming, a lot of negative lashing out, oftentimes unwarranted or disproportionate to the situation at hand, there tends to be a lot of really stifled, stuck, and hindered situations in a relationship with this individual. So not only is there interpersonal difficulty with this individual, meaning that they have issues inside, kind of navigating their own emotional landscape, but they have difficult, causing, without causing problems in relationships with others, especially those who are closest to them, their family, their parents, their spouse, or even in the workplace. And so the landscape, their emotional landscape, can be very, very caustic, very dangerous, almost like a minefield, or like a minefield, where basically, you have one step in one direction, and then this person just blows up for, you could not have maybe done anything wrong, but this person just is over perceiving and tends to, project this defectiveness and shame onto you. And so realize that there's a sort of story or a feeling of defectiveness and shame that is inherent within this individual, the quiet borderline personality. Oftentimes they have identity or, self, they tend to be very self-critical and do not really evaluate their own personality, their own personhood, their own emotions, their own thought patterns appropriately. They have, erroneous identity issues, just in terms of understanding themselves, how they evaluate themselves, they're very judgmental and very harsh and very negative, and this becomes very pervasive. So they basically don't, it's even more, I would say, more pronounced than just, like, I don't feel very worthy. They tend to be very critical of themselves, really, as they don't really see themselves realistically. And so this can be a very lifelong pattern of behavioral issues. Not only is it an issue for them, but it's an issue for others. So it can create a lot of interpersonal issues, and they can tend to alienate and push away others with this feeling of defectiveness or shame, which they are assigning to other individuals who they're over-perceiving. And so basically it is a story that they are developing within themselves, that someone is flawed, someone is defective, someone is shamed, and they can't basically see beyond that. So they might be upset with a child, your hair is this way, look at your hair, or look at your this, or look at your clothes, or, they tend to not be very accepting, nurturing of just the way that things are. Because they have such a black and white thinking, they tend to misperceive, overperceive, and assign blame, shame, and defectiveness to other individuals. And if you are kind of targeted from a borderline in this individual, chances are it's very difficult to get out of it. If they have made their mind up, they have made their mind up, especially from a female borderline, who has made their mind up. I mean, there is no going back. There's no, retreat. There's no, like rehash the terms. Oftentimes it's very difficult to meet in the middle, and these people are not open to discussing or evaluating or kind of coming to terms. They're very hypersensitive to criticism. And so you see this blowing up, out of proportion, rather than, saying, oh, you're right, let's try it this way. They're not very, fluid, like with meeting things in the middle. They're very hypersensitive to this criticism or perception of others. So they tend to misinterpret, misunderstand, over perceive, and overreact these sort of issues. So it creates a gulf, it creates a rift, it creates a lot of interpersonal problems. And oftentimes this, the borderline is not very open to reevaluating their own thinking pattern, their own emotional patterns, their own, taking responsibility, accountability for, like, being apologetic, being sorry, listening to others. Oftentimes, they are so hypersensitive and hypercritical to it, oftentimes based in either a situation that occurred in their childhood, their upbringing, where it was so painful. Perhaps they were not nurtured, they were not taken care of, they were not embraced for who they were. Perhaps they were criticized, or they were raised around a lot of violence, or a difficult neighborhood where there was a lot of this going on. They tend to then have repressed that down, buried that down. It's way underneath. They're not conscious of it. It's just, they're just saying, this is how I am. This is who I am. Love me or hate me. It's just, they're not going to understand that, maybe you should learn to adjust and adapt and be resilient, and maybe that's not called for. They're oftentimes not able to listen. They're not able to internalize. They're not able to entertain the idea that, this is maladaptive. This is hurtful. This is not good for your daughter. This is not good for your son. This is not good for your relationship. This is not good for your car. This is not good for your house. Like, they, are on a tunnel vision, black or white thinking. This is my mind up. If you criticize, well, you're basically in mine territory. You've now stepped on the mine. You're going to get the explosion. You're going to go away with a foot blown off. You're going to have shards of glass in your face. If you're not physically slapped, you're going to be emotionally slapped. They don't care if they, scar, hurt, maim, they are insensitive to that. And oftentimes, if there's an empathy, oftentimes they know that they lash out, and really, there are some very people who become sensitive, and they're going, wow, I really did lash out, and I am sorry. Oftentimes there's a few select people who they can be, have like those little bit broader array of emotions with. But there are people usually who are their most closest, most intimate, meaning their family, who, because of their fear of abandonment and fear of rejection, that they push people away. Instead of you rejecting me, I'm going to be the one to reject you. Instead of you being the one to hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. It's better to be on this end of the stick rather than the other end of the stick. So they're going to be constantly, giving it, pushing people away, pushing people around, controlling others to protect themselves against the fear of criticism. And even though, life is about growing, life is about love, life is about, letting go of that criticism, because it must take a lot of energy to have to constantly live combative, criticizing and judging. To have a lot of the energy caught up on that and constantly be strong opinions, evaluating, it must be exhausting. And if you have encountered that, you're welcome to please leave comments down below. And if it is exhausting, if you're one of those people who's like, oh my God, I'm so done with this. I'm so sick of living harsh, judging, and it's gotten me into so much trouble, and I've gotten myself into trouble. I've had a divorce. I've lost my family. I've lost my this, because like my emotions are just so out of control, and I'm not very good at listening to people. I'm too sensitive. I think that it's all or nothing. When they tell me, to change this, I think that they hate me. They over-perceive, they're oversensitive to this criticism. They don't realize that oftentimes, you have to learn to adjust and adapt. And that it's for your, oftentimes people's feedback is the most valuable thing. That's the whole idea, is that other people, other eyes, other hearts, other minds, other experiences are what, make your life, grow, enrich, and expand. Other people can see things that you can't. So it's like it's better for you to receive that input, to receive that criticism, to receive that request, because you're like, oh, you're right. I didn't know that. Thank you so much. You've just enlightened me. You've just shown me the light. You've just shown me another way that we could do things, and I don't have to live so fearfully. I can let that go now. So even though it's in their best interest, they're pushing away kind of what it is that they want. So they can be very isolating of people and very isolating of themselves. So when you see this sensitivity to criticism, a quiet narcissist borderline who is very quiet can be very, very sensitive to this criticism. And so their personality can be very, their temperament can be very sensitive overall, but particularly to that input. And they tend to, really dig their heels in and lash back oftentimes. And, there goes the name calling. There goes the cuss words. There goes the expressiveness. So, it's very difficult. And really you have best luck with those people who have had enough. They're like, I really don't like living this way. How can I adjust? How can I change? They want to learn about themselves. They want to learn about their disorder. They want to learn about their self-talk. They want to learn about their, how they have harshly judged themselves and like let it go. It's okay to, perfectly imperfect, I think is, a more relaxed sort of lifestyle, but it becomes a temperament, a lifestyle, a relationship model for them. And something you do need to become aware of if you're dealing with a quiet borderline personality, and protect yourself. Learn, understand how these people are, and then learn tools to how to basically distance yourself and protect yourself from it. And if they're sensitive to criticism, just know that they're sensitive to criticism. Know that you're not open to input. You're not open to discussion. And so oftentimes, if you say that, you're going to get more of it right back in your face. So just acknowledge, this person is not open for a discussion. They're not open for input. Their mind is not open. Their heart is not open. And that is up to them. That is their fault. That is their shortcoming. That is their temperament and personality. So if you waste hours, weeks, months, days, years, onto trying to get this person to change, or, relax, or try this or try that, oftentimes, it's going to be met on deaf ears, on a closed heart, a closed mind. And, no matter what you try to put in, it's like trying to plant and water a seed on cement. It's not going to go anywhere. So, I would say just, take your energy and put it elsewhere, to people who really deserve it versus people who really need it. Until they're ready, they will not come forth. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.